What's up, everyone? I'm DJ Hamilton, and you're tuned into the DJ Sports Show, where we give you the latest, greatest, and most exciting sports stories in the world of sports. From interviews to having people's stories heard and told. This is the DJ Sports Show. Let's get it!
Every Saturday morning, young fans of the New Jersey Nets can listen to a radio show designed especially for them. It is called Nets Slammin Planet, and one reason for the show's popularity is its 12-year-old co-host.
And he was chosen from over 200 kids for the job. Now, the program includes player interviews and covers things like math and geography. So let's tune in as Brandon and the Planet hit the airways.
Hi, I'm Brandon Robinson. I'm going to take you behind the scenes of my show, New Jersey Nets Slammin Planet. Follow me. Mr. Cassell, if you would allow me to pick your brain for a minute.
He's young, but he's not afraid. He gets straight to his questions, and I like that.
You don't expect a kid to look you right in the eye and ask you these questions and be totally serious.
It's a real challenge for me, but my parents have been preparing me for this.
Worked at VH1, my friend Jasmine, she said, Brandon, come to VH1. This was when I finished undergrad, and you know, met Stewart, and you know, after he did some tape in there, we just had a conversation for about 15, 20, 30 minutes just about life. You know, what are your plans, how you prepare?
And we expect that Becky Hammon, as an assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs, will be equally compensated for her skills.
Why not? You have NBA head coaches who have no coaching experience. Jason Kidd last year came in and had no coaching experience, was a player, was a point guard, an extension of the coach on the floor. Derek Fisher came in with the Knicks and did the same. Checked out LeBron James Jr. Bronny could play.
Yeah, he really is amazing. I mean, gosh, I don't know if it is in the DNA, but it looks like it could be. And I love that word, that expression, technological what?
Determinism.
Determinism. I got to write that down. Now,
Scoopy Radio, you know we are having a party when we got my main man, Kenny Smith. Brother, what's going on?
Stop it. The party don't start till you walked in.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, DJ Hamilton, DJ Sports Show. If you watch on YouTube, hit that like, subscribe button, and share anybody you know who loves sports. We're here at the DJ Sports Show, the place where we talk sports, have stories told, and make a difference. And we have a very special guest for you guys today. He is an NBA insider for over 20 years. He has his own brand called Scoop B Radio, and he's one of the best in the business. Brandon Scoop B Robinson. How you doing, Scoop?
Brother, what's good? I'm doing all right. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great, man. I was excited having you on the show. I know we met back in NVJ in Chicago last year. I was like, man, it was great to get to know you, just to pick apart your brain, get to know about your business more and what you do. And then we've been in touch ever since, and it's just been great to have a genuine relationship with a person like you. So I appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule and coming on the show, man, and talk about your journey.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be myself.
Oh, yeah, always, man. So, Brandon, I always like to start off with my guests and getting a little to know about their background so people in the audience know where is he from? How did he become who he is today? So I saw you were born in Newark, New Jersey, and grew up in Essex County in the borough of and also in the borough of Manhattan. What qualities that growing up in those areas instilled in you from a young age that benefited you throughout your career and made you who you are today?
Hard work, and also the golden rule of treating people the way you want to be treated. And also basically be a leader, not a follower. And I think those are things and qualities that transfer into many facets of life, whether that is what I do every day as a journalist, but also, you know, what I do as a person outside of what I do. I think those are just transferable traits that, you know, were instilled in me young and still stick with me today.
That's great, man. Definitely agree with you on that. So we all start from somewhere in our careers, but we all know you love basketball and things of that nature. But where did it all begin for you? When did your love for sports truly begin? Who was the first person to get you into sports?
So a couple of things. One, my family ran and operated two shoe businesses in Harlem, a sneaker store called the Athlete's Foot on 125th Street, and then a men's shoe store also on 125th Street called Men's Walker. We were the only black-owned Athlete's Foot in New York State, and we used to do sneaker releases at the store. So like Dominique Wilkins and Hakeem Olajuwon and Spud Webb would come in and do sneaker releases for, like, I think it was Brooks sneakers when I was a kid. And then, the Wayans brothers would shop in the store. Mike Tyson, LL Cool J, Big Daddy Kane. That kind of was like, being around athletes and celebrities was where it really started on the sneaker store side. And then on the men's shoe store side, my uncle ran the men's shoe store. Dizzy Gillespie would come in and kind of kick it with my uncle and talk jazz music and shop. And, Paul Mooney, the late comedian Paul Mooney and my uncle were very cool. They would snap on each other, and it was like a whole Apollo theater on 125th Street in a shoe store. So, those foundations were there. And then I had an uncle who ran a basketball league in Harlem at Riverbank State Park called Citywide. And Citywide, anybody who came out of New York City that played basketball knew my uncle played. Citywide, Kenny Smith, Stephon Marbury, Rod Strickland, Mark Jackson, Bernard King, the list goes on and on. Those foundations, Kenny Anderson, like a lot of the you saw the documentary Point Guards that was on Showtime. A lot of those guys that were, point guards, they came through Citywide. So when they were in high school, so combination of that, and then my stepfather's from Chicago, so he turned on the TV in '91, and I saw this bald-head guy named Michael Jordan playing for the Chicago Bulls, and I was enamored. And that was just my interest on the business side of basketball, the entertainment side of basketball, and then just the branding side of basketball. Sneaker store, shoe store, Riverside Church, as well as a Citywide affiliation there, and then turning on the NBA on NBC and watching Michael Jordan and being enamored. That was kind of my interest, my start, and my muse. And ultimately, I began in radio at 12 years old with the Nets when I was a kid.
That's amazing, man. You got to be around a lot of greatness from a very young age. Like the old saying goes, you are who you surround yourself with, and the environment you're around has a big impact on who you become. So the next question I kind of want to ask you, just to build off what you said, is so being around all that at a young age, how did that impact your way of thinking from such a young age? And did that inspire you to want to eventually become an entrepreneur, which you would eventually become as you got older?
Did it inspire me? Yeah. I mean, you are a product of your environment. I didn't necessarily, I played basketball when I was younger. I wasn't as good as my peers, but I always held conversation, was as tall as them, and just knew the life of an athlete just from being around that from such a young age. I think by the time my whole situation with the Nets came about, I auditioned at Chelsea Pier. Hundreds of kids auditioned at Chelsea Pier, Manhattan. That was the first audition. Second audition was at Dangerfield's Comedy Club. And then I started doing, I was picked as one of eight to 10 kids who were kid personalities for a radio station called Oswald Radio, 1660 AM Oswald Radio. And the radio station was at Liberty Science Center in Jersey City. And, we did commercials with Crash Dummies. So there's a video floating around somewhere of that. In the radio station, the Crash Dummies was with us, and then the Nets came about, and they reached out to Oswald Radio looking for a kid who was interested in basketball, who knew the game. And so when that came about, they interviewed me. I went through an interview process, and then they took a liking to me. Lou Lamoriello interviewed me, and then I started in '97. I was the Nets had rebranded. Johnny Calipari was the head coach and vice president of basketball operations. They had a new logo. Keith Van Horn was their first draft pick. Sam Cassell, Kendall Gill, Chris Gatling, Jason Williams, Michael Cage, Kerry Kittles, all those guys were in the locker room and on the Nets side. And that was where I kind of got my start. And I looked around and I realized like this could be a career, that could last in the future. I remember being around journalists that are household names like Chris Broussard, Adrian Wojnarowski, Stephen A. Smith. This was like 97, 98. I was around all those guys back then. And kind of just looked around my vantage point. I hadn't stepped foot in a college classroom yet, and this was a chance of a lifetime. And, I took advantage of it, networking. A lot of those guys that were in the league when I was a kid ended up being agents, coaches, front office execs, and more. So, that they're getting me a head start. I remember being around Vernon Maxwell when he was a member of the Charlotte Hornets, and that's one of my go-to guys in the league now, and he's doing this thing with all the smoke. So you just kind of look around and you learn things. You meet people. I have stories for days of just being in the locker room. But I kind of looked around and saw that there was a niche for that in my future, and here we are now talking.
Yeah, I can't imagine being a 12-year-old kid trying to go up to Vernon Maxwell.
Yeah. I have a pair of his sneakers that he signed for me sitting in my office.
Wow.
Still have them to this day. I remember being in the locker room with Michael Jordan when I was a kid. That was around the Last Dance Bulls. So,
wow.
There's guys that when I was watching the Last Dance, that was 97, 98 season. So, I see guys that that I'm still cool with today, making many cameos in the documentary. Nick Anderson, Brevin Knight, Reggie Miller, and you're texting some of those guys during while the Last Dance when I see you, and that was when we were all on lockdown during the height of the pandemic, and so like that looking back on that, that's I remember the Bulls being at 2 games with them and being in a locker room with Michael and walking into this area in the room where you're technically not supposed to be there, but because I was a cute kid, I kind of was able to make things shake. And walking in that room and looking to my right, Michael Jordan was on one side, Phil Jackson and the late Tex Winter is on the other side. And I'm looking up and I'm seeing Michael Jordan, and he looks at me, he speaks, and he's like, "What's going on, young fella?" And I'm looking at him like, "Why the fuck he's not in my TV?" Like it was like a surreal moment. Yeah. But being in a locker room, not just with him, Karl Malone, Tim Duncan in his rookie year, Reggie Miller, Antoine Walker, Sean Kemp, Vin Baker, and Gary Payton, both members of the Seattle Sonics at that point. Ray Allen, Scottie Pippen, just household names that, Grant Hill. I remember I played saxophone when I was a young kid in the classical orchestra, and I remember I had a spring concert that night, and the Detroit Pistons were also in town. I remember getting to the game early, Grant Hill giving me an interview, and then leaving because I needed to make my classical music concert in time. And that's a timeless moment. And so just people over the years, the late Dikembe Mutombo, just a lot of different people who are still relevant today.
Wow, no, that's amazing. Man, Michael Jordan was like, "What's up, young fella?" You had to be like, "Wait, he really just said what's up to me?" Yeah, you had to be like starstruck. You had to be like frozen. I can't imagine that.
Yeah. I mean, very few people that I can say that I've been starstruck around, and probably the two that from then to now that I've been starstruck, Michael Jordan and Jay-Z.
Wow, no, that's awesome. No, that's amazing. Now, we're definitely going to get into some of those stories later because I definitely want to hear some of the great stories you have. But the next thing I want to get into, so you mentioned like since you were the age of 12, you were co-hosting the Nets on Slammin Planet on radio AAHS, now called AAHS World Radio, where you got to interact with a lot of seminal figures in NBA history, from NBA legends such as Kobe, Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, just to name a few. So elaborate on those early experiences on co-hosting and how they shape your approach to journalism today.
Well, that show is where I got the nickname Scoop B. So I co-hosted a show called Slammin Planet. It was on 1660 AM Oswald Radio, which was like a public access station. Oswald Radio was all over the United States. They catered to young kids across the country. So that while it was local in the New York metropolitan area for me, doing the show and being a kid's personality first on Oswald Radio and then transitioning into Slammin Planet, all over the world. Like there were kids from Minnesota, kids from Chicago, kids from all over that were kid personalities on that network. And locally it was a blessing. That gave me structure and kind of gave me a sneak peek into what the industry was going to look like. I hosted it with former net Albert King, who's the brother of NBA Hall of Famer Bernard King. Albert had a career in his own right as a member of the Nets, and I think that the Washington Bullets and the Philadelphia 76ers, high school legend there. And I also hosted it with Lynn Wilson, who gave me the nickname Scoop B, and Evan Roberts, who was at WFAN in New York now, He was a couple years older than me. The show lasted for 2 years. First year was on Osroad Radio. Second year, it was on a now defunct radio station called 620 AM One-on-One Sports. It was competing with WFAN in New York. And so the first year we taped it at Liberty Science Center. It was cool because after the show, like my cousins or some of my friends would come to the radio station, which was in Liberty Science Center. And after the show was over, we would go to the Liberty Science Center and like go through the touch tunnel and just do all of the things in there for free. Like that was the cool part. I could bring my friends, we can go in there for free, my cousins, etc., and have fun. I think that was the thing that I enjoyed most about that time during my childhood, that happened to be a professional opportunity. The fact that I was able to still be a kid and do that show for 2 years and go to high school, go to undergrad, go to grad school, and then restart my career after. I think that opportunity was such a tailor-made opportunity for me. I give God all the glory and the credit there. I can't take full credit for that because he knew what he was doing. I love to talk. I love to communicate, and I love basketball. And I just kind of looked up and as a young kid and just realized that this was an opportunity, and it's a passion, and it's something that I've been able to carry all of my life, most of my life.
No, that's really well said. Really well said right there. So you said, so you start from a young age. You're 12 years old. You're a kid, but we all need mentors in our life to help guide us, to help keep us out of trouble and show us the way. So who are your earliest mentors there in the media space when you were coming up, and how did it help guide you and your path?
Probably Iron Eagle, voice of the Nets, CBS Radio, or CBS Sports. He does the football games, and he does March Madness now. I used to go to his went to his sports broadcasting camps when I was a kid. That was somebody that I kind of tapped in on early on. Chris Carino, who was the executive producer of my radio show when I was a kid. He's now the voice of the Nets on the radio. He's been there for years. Those are people that I kind of latched onto and connected to early on, and then people outside of just the media space. Like I had a life outside of it. There was mentors in my church. A big brother to me. His name is Abraham Austin. He's actually an accountant. He's a CPA. And I would take him to games with me sometimes when my mother or my stepfather didn't feel like going. He would go with me to some games. Those are kind of early mentors for me. I think mentors later in life kind of get a little tricky for a myriad of reasons, just because it's a very funny industry. And some people older than you, they feel threatened by you, or some people feel like because you've had an early start that they can't tell you nothing, or they feel like I feel that they can't tell me nothing. So I try to have my select few of mentees in this space, so that I don't have that level of weird energy. But I will say that there are some mentors that I have had nonetheless, like Justice Hill, who's based in Cleveland. He's somebody that's always been a sounding board, has helped me, given me advice, been a sounding board, and has helped me, on both the balance of the educational side of journalism as well as the practical side of journalism. He kind of gave me the game on how to connect with editors on freelancing and how to do elevator pitches and things like that. And then Chris Broussard, when I was in college, brought me to ESPN when he was there, and went out there for a weekend and came to my mom's house, picked me up, and we went out to Connecticut, and I got a tour of the campus, and just was really an instrumental person later in my career, like in college, and beyond that. I can call when I have questions.
No, that's amazing. Nah, shout out Chris, man. That's a mutual friend of both of ours. Chris is an amazing dude, man. Him and Rob Parker, both amazing guys. They always want to give wisdom, give knowledge, and they don't gatekeep. That's one thing I love about them. Like, they're always willing to help out people who look just like us. So yeah, that's an amazing story about all the mentors you have, man. And mentors are very important because they could kind of be like they could help you skip steps and not make mistakes that they made, so that you could be even better than them. Because good mentors, they want you to be better than them. And that's why you want to have great mentors. So you mentioned, so you will go on to attend the well-known Don Bosco Prep for high school, where you were the editor of the Iron Man newspaper. And then you went on to earn a Bachelor of Arts at Eastern University, where you also were the Eastern Wiltonian PA announcer for basketball, volleyball, tennis, and lacrosse before pursuing a master's degree at Hofstra. How did those experiences and reps help prepare you for your professional career?
It allowed me to make my mistakes outside of a fishbowl. Being a college kid, learning life outside of just what you were destined to be or what many people perceived you to be destined to be. So I think college is where you make your mistakes. I couldn't imagine being a college student now with social media existing from the minute you're born. So I'm grateful that, I was able to go to an Eastern, go to a Don Bosco, and able to go to Hofstra. I think Don Bosco for me was an extension of what I was doing with the Nets. I actually went to Seton Hall Prep my freshman year and then transferred to Don Bosco. And so being at Seton Hall Prep first and them having a basketball team that was, nationally ranked, I was able to really tap into certain relationships that are still valuable today. I remember when I was at Seton Hall Prep, they played Camden High School in the Tournament of Champions, and that was when DeJuan Wagner was on that team. And guys at Seton Hall Prep that were there were like Marcus Toniel, who helped recruit one of the top recruiting classes at Seton Hall University at the time under Tommy Amaker. So you had Eddie Griffin, the late Eddie Griffin. You had Marcus Toniel, who recruited Eddie, and then you had Andre Barrett, who's now a big-time scout with the Brooklyn Nets. So, those relationships there were pivotal even there. So by the time I went to Don Bosco, my sophomore year, I went to a school where on the football side, you had Bryant, who was a Gatorade Player of the Year. You had Mike Teal. You had Ryan Grant, who ended up playing for the Green Bay Packers. Just guys that were D1 athletes. Some of my friends that I went to Don Bosco with and Seton Hall Prep with, they ended up going to their respective leagues in the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball. So, for me, my time at Don Bosco was more practice. I think, writing for the newspaper. I remember when I was at Seton Hall Prep, my first year, as a freshman, no other freshman had ever had their own column in the school newspaper. And, I did that, which was cool. And transferred that over to, my time at Don Bosco. And I think my time at Don Bosco was really about building relationships with athletes my age. Being a kid reporter in the Nets locker room, the NBA locker room, there were probably conversations at 12 years old that I shouldn't have been hearing. But I'll say that, kind of dumbing it down with people my age, you definitely, you're able to just grow with people who are around your age. I think my time at Eastern was a lot more, I was a big fish in a small pond, which I appreciate quite a bit because I went to a small school and I was able to grow. I think I had a professor one time that I was telling a story to a close friend of mine the other day. I had a college professor who was grading my papers, and he told me that and if I want to be successful and I want to grow, I have to be the balance of both style and substance. And that my style was good, but my substance needed to be on point. And I think when I look at the combination of style and substance, it's the epitome of a Cadillac Escalade with Lamborghini doors. I think that combination is unstoppable. Being both book smart, being savvy on just know what it's like to move around and travel and go from place to place. I don't want to say street smart because I think that dumbs down just being a citizen of the world and traveling and moving around. But I definitely think that my time at Eastern was well spent because I just grew. And I think by the time I got to Hofstra for grad school, it was more technical and things that I was used to. Being in the TV station, being in a radio station, knowing how to cut and edit, how to shoot. And I kind of saw the direction of where media was going. I took a class in grad school where, the professor told me that in the next 10 to 15 years, maybe 20 years, that the industry is going to turn into less about the network or the company that somebody is affiliated and more about their brand and their sweat in the game and their relationships. And that was quite a prophetic word. So I think all three colleges or all three educational institutions, Don Bosco to Eastern to Hofstra, were definitely a master class in just adapting, growing, and taking something from that and applying it to life.
Nah, that's some great stories right there. Some great reps from big like Don Bosco. I have some people I know that went to Don Bosco. And they're playing overseas now, basketball, or they're playing football in the NFL, D1 college football. Don Bosco is one of them schools, man. In Jersey, they don't play. I know it's an all boys school. They produce some athletes over there. And then also you went to a great college. It's great that you went to a small college, so you had less distractions and things of that nature. You're able to focus and hone your craft, and that helped you can eventually become as successful as you have become throughout your career. So when we aggregate all those things together, you eventually will go on to work in both the hip hop and sports media industry as a contributing writer for major publications from Slam Magazine, Billboard, CBS Sports, and The Source, just to name a few. Tell me, how do you think hip hop and sports culture collide, and why do you believe the blend of the two is a unique pairing?
I think it goes back to what I said before when I said that a lot of my friends that played ball, I wasn't as good as them, but there was a grassroots relationship there based upon just commonality. For many people, you either have to play ball or you have to rap in order to make it out. But at the same time, sometimes I think for athletes and for rappers, there's all a level of creativity. Bouncing a ball, jumping in air and catching a football, spitting a quick 16 or 20 bars. It's all about creativity, adjustment, and not thinking and just doing and improvising on the fly. That level of improvisation and creativity all ties into what athletes and entertainers do every day. So to me, that's a natural fit. I think, my time at the Source magazine specifically came at a point where after I graduated grad school in 2011, I was living in my grandmother's basement and nobody would hire me, and I was figuring out next steps. And the relationships that I developed early on and me telling my own story in a digital form is a good thing, a blessing and a good thing. And I think you're able to, tell stories. I remember I was at the Source magazine. I was also at some point freelancing between 10 to 12 different publications at one time. And this was in between 2012 and 2015. And, you blend those stories. So I remember Jabril Peppers, a member of the New England Patriots. He was in high school at Don Bosco, and then he ended up transferring to Paramus Catholic. He was making a big decision about where he would go to college. He ended up going to Michigan. And I remember texting him while he was in homeroom and asking him questions for quotes for stories and things that I was working on. And those relationships, they mattered there. I remember at that point, Carmelo Anthony was a member of the Knicks, me going to his basketball camps and developing a relationship and rapport, which has carried over to his retirement. I remember connecting with CeCe Sabathia when he was a Yankee and going to his camps and connecting with him there. And then connected with Kyrie Irving then in his second year with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And that relationship developing into something long form, and me being one of the first to report that Kyrie would join the Brooklyn Nets along with Kevin Durant back in 2018, I believe it was. So for me, it's about building relationships locally, and once you build those relationships locally, they carry to the world. And when you take care of home, the world will take care of you.
I like that. That was a bar right there, Scoop. You should get you on the mic saying that.
Thank you.
That was a bar. So speaking of sports, let's get into the sports realm. Your main niche is the NBA. You're one of the experts. You've been doing it for a long time. So you've been an NBA insider for many years, who's broken a lot of great NBA news and stories. So share with us, the audience and myself, what are some great stories that have stood out to you the most that you have covered throughout your illustrious career? I know you mentioned a few earlier, but if you can go into more deep detail on a few that you think that really have stood out to you throughout your incredible career as an NBA insider.
I think there was a point in my career a few years ago. I'm still, even though I'm young, I feel older than my age, and as far as just my reporter notebook, which is a good thing, I guess. I guess there's a balance, but I think a couple things stand out. I remember in 2018, where I was kind of making a transition, I had reported some things that I knew to be true, specifically with LeBron and going to the Lakers in 2018, and then his whole production with Space Jam, and then I knew that LeBron and his team had kind of been having conversations about the Lakers and then who would join him. And I remember the fall of 2018, me reporting that not only was LeBron, or the summer of 2018, which led then after he joined the Lakers in 2018, the fall of Anthony Davis. And he reporting that and that making major headways. And I think that connectivity to the Los Angeles Lakers really propelled some things for me, both digitally and just putting myself out there. I was at a point where I was, a managing editor and a columnist at a hip hop magazine called Respect Magazine, and I had left, and I was really focusing on Scoopy Radio, which is, a media entity that I co-founded with my business partner, Emmanuel Grant, and was kind of looking at next steps. And I went from that to going to Basketball Society when I left Respect Magazine. Was there for a couple of years, and then a website called Heavy.com came calling, and then MSG Networks had me doing some TV work there. And what ended up happening was I started to make money off of what I was doing, and that was in 2018. And I think the whole Lakers connection, LeBron, Anthony Davis, and more, and you're kind of seeing what was kind of left out or what was being talked about behind the scenes and retrospectively with Kawhi, because Kawhi was seriously considering the Los Angeles Lakers, and they couldn't get Kawhi, but the Lakers ultimately did win one championship in 2020 in the bubble. And, just being not only reporting all that stuff, but then getting, solid relationships with guys within that organization and being around the Lakers the day before Kobe died, and spending time with them in Philadelphia and hearing LeBron yell in the locker room after that game when he broke Kobe's score record, "Yo, we're not going home tonight. We're going home tomorrow." And I've often pondered, I was standing next to LeBron when he said it. I often pondered, had they gone home that night after that long East Coast road trip, would LeBron and Kobe have had that last conversation by phone? Because they were they were on the phone that night in the team hotel, and there was guys sitting around while Kobe and LeBron were talking. So, those are conversations I've had with guys on that team. I've learned how the Lakers found out about Kobe's passing while they were on the team plane. They were on Wi-Fi, and Dwight Howard had actually said, "Hey, Kobe died," and people were like, "Yo, shut up, Dwight." And there was a whole conversation about it on the phone, and people were like turning their laptops on, turning their tablets on, turning their phones on Wi-Fi, and they're like, the Lakers learned about Kobe's death on the team plane.
Wow.
And I've had various conversations with Lakers players about it then and then later about it. So just things like that. The Kyrie Irving connection, as I mentioned before, started 2013 at his basketball camp, but it actually extended prior to that because his dad played in my uncle's basketball league in Harlem. So our connectivity there, and then me having lived in West Orange, New Jersey, and Kyrie, of course, being from West Orange, New Jersey, and more. Our families, interconnect over 20 to 30 years prior to us actually connecting there. So kind of full circle moment there. One of my cousins grew up with Kyrie's dad. So it's just a lot of full circle moments, and that kind of just stand out. Those are some of the things that stand out to me. And I think the last thing that I can make mention of that I think is valuable is back in 2014, I was at a basketball exposure program in Dallas, Texas. And I was invited along with Kobe's dad, Joe Jellybean Bryant. And our hotel rooms were literally right across the hall from each other. Wow. And we would take shuttle buses in together or get rides together to the actual venue. I was doing more of the broadcast there, and Kobe's dad was the late Joe Jellybean Bryant was doing the broadcast, or was rather doing instructional stuff. And he would tell me crazy stories just about Kobe, and we stayed in touch all these years up until his death. I think me and him were texting like a month or two before he passed. Wow. And I remember him calling me like a couple years later after Kobe announced his retirement tour. It was going to be his last year. And Kobe's dad had asked me, "Yo, can we do a sit-down interview?" And this was when I was at CBS. And he gave me an interview, and it broke the internet, the things that we were discussing. I think those moments, those relationships can't be paid for. They come from just natural connectivity.
No, that's amazing. No, that's some great stories right there. So I love the way you broke down the insight, the detail, and everything. Before we get to the next question, I just want to ask: do you have any stories from any deep detail stories or anything from the covering the Last Dance Bulls while you were in the locker rooms for Michael Jordan, and any Kobe Shaq stories?
Yeah. So what I'll say about the Last Dance Bulls, full circle moment. So Dylan Harper, who's a member of the San Antonio Spurs, rookie, went to Rutgers University, actually covered Rutgers last season, and I was back and forth covering them, and then I ended up making a trip to a city to cover the Lakers at an away game, and I had seen LeBron throughout the game. We were talking, and then after the game, I asked him a question on camera about Dylan Harper, and the interview or the question about Dylan Harper kind of blew up the internet. He was talking about how good he thought he was, and this was at a point last year where people were deciding on whether they like Cooper or Dylan better. And long story short, question went viral. A couple weeks later, I was in New York. I had some I was gifted some tickets to go to a Knicks game against the Celtics, and I was in the back in the VIP area. Joe Budden was back there. Ron Harper was back there, and I introduced myself. And He knows I know. He goes, I know exactly who the hell you are. I see your damn name next to my son's name every 10 minutes. and then we ended up finding out that we had some mutual friends. And I actually interviewed him in the locker room during that time with the Bulls. And it's not clowning him. I said this to his face. I said, the thing I remember most about you is that you had a Batman tattoo on your leg. And I didn't know until I sat down with you that day that you stuttered. He was like, you didn't know? He was like, yeah. I said, so that, just all of that kind of just reconnecting. And, Ron and I reconnected. Both of his sons actually went to Don Bosco. So there was a full circle moment there between the Don Bosco connection, the Bulls, and my reporting days when I was a kid. And then his son, Dylan, being at Rutgers, a team that I was covering. And it was just a full circle moment. As far as just the actual team, I remember being in a locker room with the Bulls and walking in, and Dennis Rodman was sitting in a chair, crisscross applesauce, and he had on flannel pajama pants, and he had on ankle socks with these little plush balls on them. And he was watching tape in a pull-out TV, kind of like the TVs that people had in the 90s, like when it was be a rainy day and you couldn't go out for recess. And he was watching tape of Jason Williams because he was going to have to guard him that night. And he just was very focused and I don't want to say entertained, but he was very engaged. That's the word. He was very engaged into the person that he was going to be guarding that night. And I remember tapping him and asking him, did he have a few minutes? And he goes, I don't feel like talking right now because I want to watch this tape. And I respected it and went about my business. And that was the same day I ran into Michael. And then I remember after the game, Luke Longley gave me a pair of his sneakers. They were size 16 sneakers, white and red. And I have them around here somewhere. Those are probably some of the earliest memories of the Last Dance Bulls. Those are lasting memories that I have.
Yeah. Did you know MJ and Scottie were they cool in the locker? Because when I watched Last Dance, I was kind of shocked to see that they weren't actually best friends. Because I used to think when growing up learning NBA history, I thought they were like tight like this because they were so dominant on the court. Their chemistry just clicked. So did you know being in the locker room, seeing it?
The first game that they were there, that was a December. That had to be a December 1997 game. I don't know the exact date, but I remember Scottie wasn't there because the Bulls and Scottie were having those contract disputes. I will say that watching The Last Dance, coupled by what I was hearing from my producer when I was a kid, I'm able to retract that or remember that, backtrack that. That's the word, backtrack that, and then see The Last Dance, and then remember seeing what I saw in the locker room and just Scottie not being there was a big thing, but I didn't understand why then as I got older and became an adult and people playing with your money, I understood what Scottie was doing. I remember the second game, there was a rapport in that locker room. There was no level of that I saw of any not getting along. But I also know that shortly thereafter, after Michael left and retired, Scottie was a Houston Rocket, and I remember hearing conversations just about how much Scottie hated the Bulls. So it was nothing I ever saw in the locker room. It was more along the lines of what I heard, and then me putting it together based upon what I saw from The Last Dance, and then it making sense. As far as your question about Shaq and Kobe, I'll tell you a quick story. I was supposed to go. When you're an East Coast team, the West Coast team and the East Coast team only play twice a year, one at home, one away. And the Lakers were supposed to come to town that night. And I remember, you can relate to this probably. You go to the school office because you need to make a call at home. And I called my mom for something in the office, and then I hung up. I called back. She said, "Brandon, stop calling the house. If you call this house one more time, you're not going to the Lakers game tonight." So I star 6-7 and call hello, and I hang up, right? So then I go home. I'm like, "Come on, Ma, you ready to go?" "You're not going." "Why?" She said, "Because you called again, and I'm not stupid, because I know you called with a star 6-7, and I don't give a damn if you say you didn't. You did."
Oh man!
Not only could I not go to the game that night, she wouldn't let me watch it on TV either. And then the next day, I heard that Shaq and Nick Van Exel lit the Nets' asses up.
Oh,
you know how mad I was?
Oh man! I can't imagine.
But what's funny is, over the years later, I developed my own relationship with Kobe's family, as well as Shaq. Shaq has been another person who has been one call away, has been always available. I was with Shaq about a month ago in Los Angeles, and he's one of a kind. I really respect him, and his mother. His mother has been a blessing to my career as well, Miss Lucille. And I remember the first time that I met Miss Lucille was actually at All-Star Weekend in New Orleans in 2014 at an event. I ran into her randomly at an event in a casino, and it was the Saturday morning, I think it was, or Friday night, one of the two. And she was like, "Hey, you should come by later. Take my number." And she ended up inviting me to this event, and then I learned how All-Star Weekend works. Like, there's a bunch of events on those Saturdays. Like, the mothers have an event, the wives have an event, the fathers have an event, and Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, goes to every one of those events just to stop by and show his face. And I actually met Adam Silver. I saw you met him as well. But I met him. The first time connecting with Mr. Silver was actually when Commissioner Stern turned over the keys to the NBA to Adam Silver, and this was at All-Star Weekend. And then 2 or 3 months later, the whole Donald Sterling thing happened, and I was invited to the press conference, and here we go. But yeah, I definitely appreciate those moments, because those moments turn into other moments, and yeah, that's dope.
Nah, these stories are amazing, man. You coming with it, man, and then just hearing this is why it's important to build genuine relationships, because you never know where it could lead you. Right. And just building good relationship with people and just being genuine and being yourself. So that's amazing to hear all these amazing stories. So you not only were a writer, but you also appeared as a sports contributor on television and radio programming for places such as SiriusXM and ESPN Radio. And you eventually hosted your own sports show on CBS Radio called Brown and Scoop after leaving the source. How important would you emphasize and say versatility is in an ever-changing media landscape?
It's very important. I think when I graduated college and I was looking to get in the industry, I just thought I was going to be on TV right away, and actually writing will get you there much faster. So my time at CBS was a pivotal moment, because I really learned the digital landscape, how to write, how to write for copy, how people read from left to right, how things go viral, how to clip certain things. Like, that was I know my late mom wanted me to go to college to get a PhD. That was never an interest of mine. I feel like my 1 year at CBS was the part of my doctoral program, and being unofficially and being equipped to operate in the digital landscape that is media. So for me, I think that's important, and that goes into your question about versatility. That time at CBS was valuable. I mean, there would be interviews that would hit TMZ. They would be based upon stuff people would say. There would be interviews like that's when I learned the viral game and how things move in the blogs. And so yeah, that was a culmination of relationships, right place, right time, having infinite access to studio and more.
Nah, I resonate with you because when I started this, I was 19 when I started. I did it just podcasts only. And, it was COVID at that time, and it was just ending my sophomore year. I'm like, man, I need to get, because I was trying to get internships. I'm a go-getter. I don't stay complacent. So I was trying to get internships. I'm like, man, I'm struggling to get internships when internships are supposed to be helping you build your resume. I'm like, why is it so hard to get an internship? It's supposed to be helping you learn. And I said, okay, I need to start doing something related to what I want to do. So I looked up, okay, free podcast apps I can do. And I saw Anchor, which is now called Spotify for podcasters. And I said, let me create a podcast where I can consistently hone my craft and on-air skills. So I did that. It's helped me reach places worldwide. And I said, okay. Then I did that helped me get an internship for Sports Media Inc., where I still talk to the CEO, Dan Koss, which he named me the co-creator of the Sports Media blog, which I put on my resume, which looks really good. He said, so do that. Because then eventually, after those two internships, I did a Sports Media Inc. and then Semi-Pro College Sports Network, where you're covering semi-pro sports. I did it for my guy, John, of SBCSN, where I wrote for his Volume 1 magazine in 2023. And that really taught me semi-pro sports. That taught me like research, because you couldn't just really look at page one of Google and find stuff. Semi-pro sports, you got to really dig deep and try to find stuff, which really helped me. And then the other one, Sports Media Inc., they just helped me like continue to get better at my writing. I'll never forget what April Callum, she used to work as a fan of something with the Orlando Magic. She used to say, I've been writing, been an intern here, and not intern, but I've been reading interns writing here for many years. And I would say your MBA writing, because I was just beginning writing in the beginning. Like it was my first time really starting to do blogs, because I wanted to become more diversified. And she said, aside from some few grammatical errors, because you're just starting, your MBA writing is the best I've ever seen. And I was like, wow. I still have the screenshot to this day for like inspiration whenever I feel down, or I feel like, man, is this really worth it? Or I still have it. I have it in my motivation tab on my Instagram. I archived it, but I still have it in my what's it called, my camera roll. And she said, yeah, your writing's the best I've ever seen. Like you can go far in this. Now that gave me the idea to eventually create my own website so I could hone my craft more, which I did on Wix. And I said, that's why when I made my brand, I was thinking, okay, should I name it DJ Sports Show, or should I just do basketball? But I was like, nah, if I just do one sport, not everybody likes basketball. If I be more versatile and cover various sports, I could get more of an audience, and it'll make me look even better. So that's why I called it DJ Sports Show. And the rest has been history. And I've just been adding skills since. I taught myself video editing 2 years ago. And then now this year I've been getting better at cutting clips, because I found an AI thing, Opus Clips, cut clips quicker. And I just been sharpening my toolbox. I have a Google Docs with vocabulary that I try to add to here and there and just study vocab. Yeah, man, I'm trying to. And then I see you guys like you guys like you make it look easy, but it makes me like inspired just to see that someone who's not who wasn't famous starting off, didn't have all this, but he worked his way to get to where he is today, and now he has his own brand, entrepreneur, and he could say that, oh, no industry, they can't fire me. I still have my own thing. I control my own thing. I'm an owner. You know what I'm saying? Like seeing guys like you, Rob Parker, that inspires me. People of color to go out and do their own thing and be versatile. That's why I really take inspiration from, and that's why I'm glad to have you as like a genuine friend and connection. Because not gonna lie, man, you're really truly an inspiration. I just want you to know that, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that for real.
Yeah. Just trying to continue to build and get better. So the next question I want to ask you is, so let's go to April 2016, where you took the next step. You took your entrepreneurial spirit and launched Scoop B Radio. What motivated you to pursue independent content creation on your platform rather than continuing working for other major media outlets?
Well, I actually created Scoop B Radio while I was at CBS, and the cheat code was basically an interview that I got with Tip Thomas, former NBA player, went viral based upon me writing about it at CBS, and then it moving the needle based off of. So, like, we booked the interview for him to do it on CBS, but then he did an additional interview on Scoop B Radio, and it took off. But Scoop B Radio actually started off. You gonna say something?
Oh, no. I was just listening to you. I was like, yeah, that's awesome.
Scoop B Radio was actually created out of a Timberland box filled with old tapes from my childhood that were just collecting dust at my mom's house. And we took those tapes, we digitized them, and we told a story. So I had interviews with Dikembe Mutombo, Scott Burrell, who was on the Last Dance Bulls, B.J. Armstrong, Kendall Gill, Jason Williams, all those guys. And it's like, I could tell a story about me being starting with the Nets and doing what I did, but how do we see that in visual form? And so we started just digitizing those tapes. And then I got the call from Tim Thomas about a story he wanted to tell. And the story kind of took on a life of its own. Kenyon Martin, former Net, was on Woj's podcast when Woj was at Yahoo discussing a lot of things. In the fight with Tim Thomas came up, and Tim got wind of it and called me. I want to tell my side of the story. And then this went on with the two of them for like 2 years. Wow. To the point that 50 Cent got involved, and he started talking about it on Instagram. It took on a life of its own, and that's when I really began to really see the viral portion of it, and taking the things that I learned from CBS and applying it to my brand and my platform, and it worked. So I was at CBS from, I believe, August or September of 2015 to September 2016, and that Scoopy Radio, creating that imprint while I was at CBS it reminds me of what Stephen A. Smith eventually did with not just his time at ESPN, but also his Stephen A. Smith brand. And it's, I believe it was forward thinking. I won't take credit for it, but I think that for what he's doing and for what I do and have done, it's a pivot. You can't just be always tied to networks, because that loyalty is not there anymore. And that is what, Scoopy Radio created. We've had interviews with everybody. And then we have the written component over at Scoopy.com, where, a lot of my interviews live in written form. So, it was just being strategic, and we actually jump-started it, soft launched it in 2015 and hard launched it in April of 2016.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, it's always great to have your own avenue and have your own additional thing that you can call yours, and then also creates, your own stream of income, and you can have your own stories told and no one telling you what to do, where you could put out and stuff like that. So you have no restrictions. So that's always amazing to have. Speaking of Scooby Radio, man, you've had some big time guests on your show. You've interviewed several recognizable, prominent names in sports and entertainment, from Mark Cuban, Shaq, Charles Barkley, Ice Cube, DJ Khaled, Spike Lee, Pete Sampras, and so many more. What guests surprised you the most when you interviewed them? And who are your favorite guests you've ever interviewed, and why?
I don't have a favorite guest. I have different experiences based upon the guests. I think that what I enjoy most about this point in my career is those people who are guests, that you can consider friends, friendly, allies, colleagues, however you want to slice and dice it. I think that's cool. Spike Lee, I think the first time I met Spike Lee years ago at a party, 2K was having a party, we were both there, and then we ended up being at the press conference when Adam Silver banned Donald Sterling, and we were sitting right next to each other. And then, it's from that to now bumping into him at the Garden and having conversation too. I remember back in August, I bumped into Spike, and a week prior, he ran into my niece, and I was like, "Yo, you saw my niece?" He goes, "Who?" And I showed him a picture. He goes, "That's your niece?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "God bless you," because she's 2, and I'm babysitting her today, actually. So, it's cool where it extends outside of just the realm of basketball, and it goes into, the other facets of life, which is dope. So, and that's just one example. I could think of many more, but I think, like I said, I think somebody like Spike Lee, it's a relationship that expands to other things. I think with Shaq, Shaq and I were born in the same hospital, Beth Israel Hospital in Newark, New Jersey. I've been in situations where I've been at events. I was invited to an event in 2019 in LA, and I won't forget it because I literally had to be 3 places at the same time. I had to go to LA because he was doing something with a printer company, and they flew me out, and I knew he was going to be there, and I was going to the bathroom, and I went in the wrong room, and he was being interviewed, and I opened the door, and he looked at me, and I go, and he started laughing, and I closed the door. And that day, him in the room, and he did a whole press conference, and he would point to me, and I would ask him questions, and then, you have another question, and then it turned into, after it was over, we sat and we talked, we exchanged numbers that day, and then I left there, and I had to fly to Ohio University, where I was a visiting professor at that school, and I was there for like a couple days, and then I had to leave Ohio because I had to fly to Tulsa, Oklahoma, because when I landed, Russell Westbrook was traded from the Oklahoma City Thunder to the Houston Rockets, and he was there. He was having an event that was already pre-planned. His best friend is a comedian, and was having an event in Tulsa, and there was an indication that he was going to get traded. And when I landed, it was all this buzz because he had gotten traded, and he couldn't publicly talk about the trade, but I was getting information and background from him and others there. I just couldn't attribute quotes to him at the time. And I just remember being at this comedy club, the only national reporter that was there, and all of those clips from that event ended up being used on every major blog, television network, and more. And like that event, say that event was on a Thursday. I left Tulsa. I went to Oklahoma City, and I was out there until probably Sunday or Monday. And I left. That Monday, I got verified on Instagram. My Instagram account must have been tagged by every major outlet, and I had like 4 million impressions on my Instagram account. So, like, again, to take it back, I had to be 3 places at one time. I had to be in LA for the event with Shaq, leave there, fly to Ohio to speak to kids for a couple of days at Ohio University. I actually had to cut the trip short because I had to go to Oklahoma. And when I landed in Tulsa, Russell Westbrook had gotten traded. And I had to be, it actually was like my tweets. My editor at the time was turning my tweets and my text messages to him to fill my story because I couldn't sit down and write the story at the time. And this was all going on in real time in like a 4 to 5 day span. I remember leaving LA, catching a red eye to get to Ohio overnight, getting to Ohio, taking a nap, and then going to the classroom to speak to the kids, and then being there for like a day and a half, and then flying to Oklahoma, and then being in Tulsa, or then that night in Oklahoma City, and being tired. And those were
too.
Yeah, those were moments that I won't forget.
Oh, that's amazing. Now that 3 places, you were like, you just teleported, weren't you?
Something like that.
It's like, Scoop B, how you do it, man? But the next, he's like, I don't even know how to explain it.
Yes,
so this kind of wait, everything you just said kind of segues into the next question just smoothly. So you've been in the game a long time, and you've seen journalism and media change. How has the role of journalism evolved since you joined, and which skills are now considered most essential due to the rise and influence of social media compared to when you first started?
What's changed?
Remember you mentioned about the virality. We got 4 million impressions, because I know that's definitely one way social media has changed.
Yeah, I think the virality, and I also think that back when I started, everybody was a specialist. It's kind of like in basketball where Del Curry or Steve Kerr or the Paxson brothers were 3-point shooters, and now you got to be able to shoot the three. You got to be able to get to the basket. You got to be able to you got to do everything. Like the evolution of the point guard position is a perfect parallel to that. You got to be able to score. You got to be able to distribute and do all those things. I think in the industry comparatively, it's you got to know how to shoot. You got to know how to edit. You got to know how to be on camera. You got to know how to write. You got to know how to write headlines. You got to learn how to get people's attention. You have to write the article and then promote it on social media. You got to get Twitter involved. You got to get Instagram, TikTok, and everybody involved. You have to know how to send the stuff out to the blogs to get it moving. It's a whole it's a whole conveyor belt of different things. So I think that's where it's evolved, and social media, Twitter, and all those other applications that it exists in. I think now ownership is something that a lot of journalists are becoming hip to because the industry is changing there. So I think those are some of the changes that I can think of off the top of my head.
No, definitely. So in today's era of breaking news and a microwave society we live in, how do you balance speed but also ensure accuracy in your work?
I give you a perfect example that I can talk about now because it's known. I had reported something maybe 2 years ago about James Harden when he was then a member of the 76ers and him wanting out from the Clippers. And I reported that one of the reasons why he wanted to go back to Los Angeles, where he's from, is because his mother was ill. And I didn't give the specificities of what that illness was, and that was very deliberate. And that was an ethical choice because it wasn't my news to break about his mother. His mother had cancer, and my mother died of stage 4 cancer 3 years ago. And again, it goes back to a question you asked me at the beginning of treating people the way you want to be treated.
Yep.
I made a conscious decision to not, and I knew it to be true. I get phone calls about a lot of different things a lot of times. And I remember getting a call from somebody from the league office asking me about it specifically, not from a perspective of, are you lying, but from a perspective of this particular person was more concerned about his mother's well-being. And I know this particular person, and I let them know that his mother did in fact have cancer. They said, "Are you sure?" I go, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure." And then probably sometime last year, James actually talked about it on the record, and I let him tell his story. That's one example, and that example actually was based upon a previous example that had happened, I believe, in 2019, 2020. I knew that Karl Towns' mother had died before it became news, and I did not feel comfortable writing it, and I did it. I cared about the relationship. I have a relationship with him. I didn't feel right. How would you feel somebody breaking your mother's news of her passing, and you weren't the one to share it?
Exactly. No, I know what you mean. That's like sentimental, deep stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So next question I want to ask you, segueing. So you've taught and mentored many. I remember earlier you said you have some mentees. So given the abundance of so many platforms available today, what advice would you advise to creators and journalists out there on how to differentiate themselves and also how to become more of an entrepreneur, someone who has done it successfully?
Everybody's not going to be an entrepreneur, and some people are meant to work for each other, for someone. Everybody's not a boss. Some people, it's okay to be a worker too. I did it at a point out of necessity, survival, and people not wanting to hire me. And people had to get used to my voice, and eventually it worked itself out. I think that's a very loaded question. I can't give just one answer, but everybody's situation is different, and some people aren't meant to be on camera, and some people aren't meant to be entrepreneurs. Some people are meant to be workers, and some people are meant to be producers to make the next talent. It's all about your skill set. I think that journalism is in a space right now similarly to what SoundCloud was for hip hop. Everybody had a rap, but is everybody talented? That's subjective. Everybody has a strength in different things, whether that's video, whether that's written word. I also think that with written word, it's changed. Like, you got to get to the point right away before people's attention spans are shortened. I think that right place, right time, and having the information and having relationships is important if you want to do what I do. And I think that is my answer to your question.
I like that. That was a great one. If you could talk to your 12-year-old self in that Nets locker room, what would you say to him?
Keep going and don't take anybody's shit.
Like that, right to the point. What are some goals for Scoopy Radio in the next 5 to 10 years?
I can't tell you what I want to do before I do it, but I'll just say be consistent and be open to change. Okay.
We got some quick hitters. You ready?
Yes.
What would you say was the pivotal moment of your life that led you on this journey?
I mean, I think I told you. I think just right place, right time. Just New York hoops, basketball, and Michael Jordan and the Bulls.
Mhm. What's a typical day like for you, and how do you prepare for an interview or before getting on air? Are you usually nervous? Like, what's your structure and strategy usually?
No, I'm not nervous. I think the best places to do my best thinking and preparing are on airplanes and in the shower. I do a lot of thinking and talking to myself.
Okay, that's good. It's funny. I think I think there was some study saying that a lot of people talk to themselves in the shower, and then like when they're in the locker room or whatever after a workout, or because that's how I feel like you get a lot of your thoughts. You put your ideas together, how you're going to say something, whether you're going to be on TV or approach a woman or whatever it is. Like I feel like a lot of people talk to themselves more than people think. I'm not gonna lie, I do it too. I've been doing it for years.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Who are the best NBA players you've ever seen in person?
Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant.
I like that. What would you say is your all-time NBA starting five and top five NBA players of all time? It doesn't have to be in order for the top five. Give us a name if you don't want to put it in order.
Okay, so So first question was what?
The all-time NBA starting five.
All-time starting five: Magic, Michael, Bird, LeBron, Shaq.
Ooh, I like that. And who would you say are your top five NBA players of all time?
Michael, LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite all time?
Yeah. No, your top five your top five NBA players of all time. Your top five greatest.
Okay, Michael, LeBron, Allen Iverson. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Cap.
And Magic Johnson.
Oh, I like that, man. You got some culture in there. You got the captain in there. You got LeBron the King, got Air, you got Magic. I like that. I like that right there. It's a good list right there.
Yes, sir.
So we know you love sports, but what are your favorite hobbies to do outside of like sports? Like what's Brandon Scoop B. Robinson like to do outside of, like when he's not doing his media stuff?
Swimming.
Swimming?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you an elite swimmer?
I swam competitively for a little while when I was in 7th, 8th grade. I was on Seton Hall University's youth club swim team.
Wow.
I swam competitively like summers in 96, 97 for a local swim club. And I started swimming when I was about 6, 7 years old. I was a lifeguard. That was my weekend job when I was in high school. That paid my phone bill, paid for my phone, and
phone bill.
Yeah, and like if I wanted to take out on the weekends or wanted to go do something. So yeah, swimming has definitely been something that's been part of my life. When I was younger, I played the saxophone. I don't play anymore, but I enjoyed jazz music and classical music for sure. So yeah, swimming is definitely something that I enjoy. I enjoy sleeping.
Sleep is essential, man. It's not something you earn. It's a necessity.
Yeah. Video games is something that I enjoy.
What kind of video games? Do you have any in particular specific? Is it 2K or Call of Duty? What are you?
2K, Street Fighter. And a lot of times I'll play stuff that my younger cousins put me onto. That are free downloads and stuff like that. I try to play that in my downtime when I'm not on the road and then I have some time. I'm there, so I'll play some RPG games that people put me onto, like Call of Duty, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. I enjoy collecting sneakers.
I'm sure you have a robust sneaker collection.
I do. I have about 200, 300 pair.
Woo! I only got like 5, 6 pairs probably.
It's okay. You got more in your house than I do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, sir.
I'll need a if I ever get to that point, I'll be man. I need a much bigger closet. That's for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I went through this period of time when I was at Bally Sports Network. I was there for 2.5 years as their lead NBA insider, where I'm 9 arenas short of visiting 130 arenas, and I will go pick up shorts, authentic shorts from different arenas, and so that's something I like. I like collecting basketball shorts. I think I have just about every team in the league of their shorts. So I mean that's cool. Sneaker collection, shorts collection, video games, swimming, and I like sushi. I like to try new restaurants, but sushi is something that I enjoy. I like to find cool sushi restaurants.
You think is the sushi your favorite food?
No,
No. What's your favorite food?
growing up it was pasta.
Okay.
On my mom's side, we are part Italian,
Oh.
small part. I'm still black, but part Italian.
Yeah.
But that Italian like linguine and white clam sauce as a kid was my favorite dish. Now I kind of like it's kind of like you. I don't have a favorite NBA team. I like certain players. I like certain foods. Like I like to
Same
go
way.
when I go to certain cities. There's certain restaurants I like to go to. It's the same with food. So I mean, sushi is a favorite dish, yes. But I like Italian. I like soul food. I like Indian food. I like I like food, but at the same time, I like to try different things where I can.
Same. No, I agree with you. I love food as long as I'm not allergic to it. And
Right.
you know what I'm saying? And it tastes good. Like I've never been a picky eater. My sisters, they're like one of my younger sisters, she's a picky eater. I'm like, it's food. Be grateful. Like try it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then
Thai food is probably something that I've really enjoyed, and taking a visit to Thailand for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, I got to experience authentic Thai food, which was decent.
oh no, that sounds luxurious. And when I was younger, I used to write NBA notebooks of every player in NBA history. Like when I was a young kid, 9, 10 years old, like to learn the history of the game. And I used to watch so much NBA history stuff during my free time. And I used to have cards. You know how I used to have like those on deck cards back in the day that were like popular in stores? Yeah. But you know,
That's
now,
probably something I enjoy too, collecting.
yeah.
I have stuff that players have signed for me, and in my office, I have a lot of that stuff, cased. Dr. J signed something for me. Kyrie signed some stuff for me. Carmelo Anthony, and I have a few other things too, like just memorabilia, things that stand out to me, and players that I've built relationships with that sign things for me, and they mean something to me.
No, that's amazing. Memories for life right there.
For sure.
So we also got to ask you about music. Who are your top 5? Because you covered music too. Who are your top 5 music artists of all time?
Jay-Z's my favorite rapper.
Okay.
Are we talking hip hop or just music overall?
Whatever one you want prefer to do. You want to do music or you want to do hip hop? Which one you rather?
I mean, I can do hip hop and I can just do music overall. And like
We can do both. We can do
all right,
both.
so hip hop for me, my favorite rappers are Jay-Z, Big Pun, Jadakiss, Nas, and DMX. As far as the rest in peace, as far as the rest in peace to Big Pun as well.
Big Pun too, yep.
As far as music that I listen to, I mean, although I like hip hop, like I told you, I played classical music when I was a kid. I grew up in the church. I like gospel. So for me, Jay-Z is my favorite rapper. But so that's one. As far as outside of that, I grew up listening to not just Hezekiah Walker, but Kirk Franklin as well. So I put those as 2 together. I grew up liking Charlie Parker as a musician. So as a saxophonist, I played saxophone. So that's 3. 4 would probably be I feel like Pharrell and the Neptunes were such a big part of my time in high school, and so I will put Nerd together because you had the Clips, you had Fabulous, you had Jay, you had Britney Spears, you had all of them as a producer and as an artist. That would be 4, and then the last one at 5 would probably be. Damn.
You think a lot of great artists out there, man, that have been throughout the history of time.
Michael Jackson.
Ooh, I was about to say that he's gonna forget MJ. Yeah. What keeps you motivated? What's your why?
What's my why?
Yeah. What keeps you going still to this day, even though all the success you've had? What keeps you going?
My passion. I feel like it would suck in life to have all the gifts and all the talent in the world and to not use it, not just for the betterment of yourself, but to the glory of God and to help or inspire people who come behind you. I realize that I'm standing on the shoulders of giants that came before me, and I think it's important to shine.
Mm-hmm. Love that. What's your definition of greatness? How would you define it?
Living within your purpose and not giving a fuck what everybody else has to say about it.
Amen. I agree with you on that. Who would you like to see on the show? But you have to help me get them on the show.
Oh boy, that's pressure. I have to think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Who do you like? You can name a few. It doesn't have to be just one person. So it's not like tied to one person.
Chris Broussard.
Hey, that's definitely one. I've been trying to get. He's a busy man. TV, busy man. I'm trying to get. I already had Rob on. I said, hey, Chris, you help me connect with Rob. I got to get you on, man. Got to hear your story. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I got one of his mentees on.
Chris,
so I got to get the
star, Kelvin Washington. That's with Rob.
Rob right now.
Yeah, I think those two guys for sure.
Okay. And the last question I always love to ask my guests to close out the show: when people think of the name Brandon Scoop B. Robinson, what do you want your legacy to be?
He lived within his purpose. He was a creative. He tried to do right by people, and he's making his mother proud.
Man, that's a great way to close it out. Man, Brandon Scoop B. Robinson, man, this has been an amazing episode, getting to know in depth about your journey, your upbringing, your success, everything, the stories you told. And I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the show today, man. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity to be myself, my brother.
Always, man. And I love the relationship we have built over this last year, and I hope it continues to go for many years to come. And I want to continue to pick your brain and learn from one of the best to ever do it. So I really genuinely appreciate you, man.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here on the DJ Sports for another great episode. If you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. And listen on audio platforms for more. Make sure you leave a 5-star rating and share anybody you know who loves sports. I'm your host, DJ Hamilton of DJ Sports Show, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.